The past year has been a very successful one for me when it comes to languages. I've designed a tier list with all the most important tools I've been using. This year, I have improved my knowledge and understanding of French and Spanish. Languages are about experimenting and experiencing what works, what doesn't. So today, I want to share what has worked for me and what I'll keep doing this year. Number one, we have YouTube input channels. Input channels are series of videos where people speak slowly. The focus of the video is to tell a story, describing a day, expressing a thought. These skits, because they could also be skits, their goal is to actually show you the language used in a natural way. From context, you should be able to understand what the person is saying. It is adapted to a learner's needs. So I personally love input channels. I have created my own because I really see the value in that. It's like having this catalog, like this Netflix catalog, where you can access people who are speaking, but they are not speaking in a very difficult way. I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying that YouTube input channels are, in my opinion, tier S. It's probably one of the most valuable things that I could recommend for language learning. Every single day I get comprehensible input. YouTube grammar channels. So I wanted to make this distinction because there are channels in which people are not telling you stories, but they are explaining grammar, rules, vocabulary. I think about Français with Alexa, Français avec Alexa. I don't remember if that's with the French or English words. I don't know. But yeah, this is a great example of that. There are these channels that are aimed at teaching you the language and explaining some rules, some structures, examples, exercises, the whole package. But they are not based on you just watch a video or listen to it and you understand. It's more about the theory behind the language. And in my opinion, these are also extremely valuable. I recently stopped watching many of these because I used to have this kind of problem where I would watch theory videos. For example, I remember going for a walk and I was just listening to this video where there was the difference in French between bon et bien. And the problem is that when I was listening to it, everything was clear. I think there is some kind of discrepancy between all the information you get and then having the opportunity to apply that kind of information. So you should be watching one video and focusing on that material for some time. And I think it really depends on the use you're making of that video. You also need a practical element to it. At least I do. I need something practical. I need to associate some context, some stories. I need to use that language. So for me personally, I would say this is a solid A, not an S, because it's not essential. I wouldn't say it's like golden tier, but I also think these videos are extremely good. For example, if you have some doubts or if you have some linguistic curiosity, they're always nice to check. Instagram news. I get a lot of the information from all around the world from Instagram, for example, or YouTube. So I love following these channels and these profiles because I scroll and I can hear some actual language. It's a short form kind of content. At some point during the day, I'll be scrolling. So at least I get some input and I can see the value in that. And I also get to know what's happening around the world. I've also learned a lot of vocabulary which you don't usually find in study materials or comprehensible input content, because it's extremely specific to what's been happening around the world. So there has been some kind of flood, a fire, a natural disaster, a heist. I'm only mentioning negative things. Lately, the news have been quite negative. So mind you, those are the examples that come to my mind at the moment. So yeah, but I've gotten so much vocabulary that I would not normally find elsewhere. It also blocks me from scrolling sometimes because I say, oh, what does this mean? And I just quit Instagram and try to find the word. So in my opinion, this could be a solid S. Instagram lifestyle. Another S. This is another solid S. I follow people who are creators and they share their days. They share stories, where they're traveling, what they're doing, what they're buying, what they're seeing. And again, extremely rich in vocabulary, extremely useful to also see real language. And I never expect to understand everything that the person is saying in these reels or stories or in the descriptions, in the captions, under the photos. I'm realistic. I separated it with the news because it's more about common people, ordinary people. Also the sense of curiosity, because I'm like, what is this? It's more about the person living a normal and simple life. There we go. Instant German. This is an Italian book about German grammar. I had to slow down with German a little bit because I was studying 3 languages at some point. Not a good idea, to be honest. This is a book which has theory and practice. It's a very standard kind of grammar book. I really like it because it's easy and it's beginner friendly. At the same time, it's not the best way to learn a language. I'm changing my mind about how to implement grammar in language learning as a teacher as well. I'm trying to adopt a different method because starting from this, it's very boring if you start from a grammar book, not just this book in particular, but in general. I would never expect anyone to finish this and be like, yeah, I know the language. But I also think that with a language such as German, it's good to have something like this. And to be honest, I'll consider using this year because I've already started this, but I have to go through it because I just scratch the surface, to be honest, with German. I am going to use this as a source of information when I'm going to need it. I think this is not essential, but it's a very good way to have something to practice. I would put this in category B. National Geographic Life books. Okay, these are the books I have used the most this year to teach my students. They are very well-rounded and fine-tuned to topics which I find very interesting. The best thing would be to get started from the beginner and get into the advanced. I've just had the opportunity to see all of them and use all of them. Obviously, it's a course book, so there is a limited amount of videos, of reading, of exercises, of grammar. Everything is divided in different skills, but I would put this into A. TED Talks. TED Talks are something that I had to reconsider when making this tier list because TED Talks are not easy. For instance, if I were now to use a TED Talk, for example, to learn German, not possible. Absolutely not possible. You need to have at least an upper intermediate kind of level to understand TED Talks. If you do, wonderful speeches. With my upper intermediate and advanced English students, I love sharing TED Talks. But if you're not fluent in the language or you're not getting to a B2 level, they're very, very arduous. So with this little disclaimer, I would say that TED Talks are A. Assimil books. So I have the French one, but obviously we're talking about all of them. At the beginning, it was a bit boring because this is good if you're just getting started with the language. I was a low intermediate when I started with this. I went through the first 10 chapters in one sitting. Basically, if you don't know what the Assimil is, you get a chapter daily. It should be, and 100 lessons, and you have a dialogue, you have information about the grammar, the culture, exercises, and you also get the MP3 if you get the whole package of this. They're not very cheap, to be honest. This was a gift for my birthday. I find them to be very consistent. I've seen it becoming more and more difficult, and it's nice because, at least for me, I've always had something new to discover with every single chapter, and it's very important to listen also when you are doing this. There are also some recaps. After some lessons, you get some kind of summary, you get some exercises, translation, and S. Probably if a friend of yours or a relative is trying to learn a language and you're gifting them this, you're doing them a favor. I'm definitely going to get the German one. If I had to buy one book for the languages I'm learning now or in the future, that book would probably be the Assimil. Yeah. Edgard.językiobce.pl. I don't know if this is accessible outside of Poland because I got this in Poland. Let me tell you, these are short stories por las calles de Madrid, and these are graded readers. This is a graded reader, but it's divided in stories. And I have a similar one. I have the same thing with German, but with German, these are fables. These are the Grimm's brothers fables. These are stories where you have some vocabulary that's explained, you have exercises, you have the listening. I really am enjoying this. I've read 3 of them so far because it's a very recent buy. But I'm not exaggerating. I actually had to take this from Poland to Italy. I think this is a very solid kind of book, and I'm mad if this is not available elsewhere. Personally, every time I'm traveling to Poland now, because I go every now and then, every time I go to Poland, I am immediately running towards the Edgard.językiobce kind of section because they have a lot of materials. And I've also seen their catalog online, and they have different graded readers. And to be fair, I loved the selection of the vocabulary and the things that are included here. I don't know whether to give it an A or an S. I really like it, but I have not finished this. So let's say A, because yeah, this would be an A, but it's a very strong A. Next one is LingoPie. I had the opportunity of trying LingoPie this year. I've watched a French TV show. Now, I do not remember the title. I think that LingoPie has such an incredible concept behind it. It is basically a platform such as Netflix, Disney+, Prime Video, where you have TV shows. They are divided into different levels. And now they have more and more languages. They are expanding so much. I got a lot of French input from TV shows, and there are also songs. It's like a Netflix, but for language learning. I would actually give them an S. Traveling to a country has been, for me, a life-changing experience. I've traveled this year more than ever. And the thing I have noticed is I'm very self-conscious about languages, and I've talked about language anxiety. Traveling to a country could be extremely positive, but there are also its downs. It's not just ups. I became very conscious about my anxiety when I speak a foreign language. For example, when I'm speaking to non-native speakers, which is something I never expected to have, this kind of anxiety, but I do. So every time I speak to the natives, I am quite calm. And I'm like, oh yeah, we can communicate. Instead, when I am surrounded by people who are learning the language or are not very fluent, I noticed I struggle with speaking. I don't know why. So it's very different if you're given a book and you're just sitting in your country and you're just reading something in a foreign language and then you close it and that's it. Instead, when you're traveling, you're surrounded by the language. You hear people all the time. You see a menu, you see the signs, the road signs. It's just different. It is also expensive. If you think about the different ways in which you could be motivated, it is one of the most expensive things on this tier list. But yeah, I think it's just uncomparable, and I would put it into an S. It's also important to acknowledge those negative aspects in language learning, because it's not just beautiful flowers, unicorns, everything's through pink-colored lenses. Having that reality hitting you, sometimes we should touch some grass also with language learning. If you're not surrounded by the language, if you cannot immerse yourself in the language, for example, in the country where you are, if you don't have any friends or people who speak that language, traveling to a country with native speakers, it can be a traumatizing experience, but at the same time, it's a necessary kind of experience. It could be. So yeah, AI voice. So here I intend all the different AI chatbots with the vocal part where you can record your voice, you get an answer.
Fantastiche su TikTok e Instagram. È un modo divertente per imparare e sperimentare in cucina.
It really depends on what you're using, first of all, because the quality can change a lot. To be fair, when I have, for example, used ChatGPT, yeah, I was not very satisfied. I don't find it to be as useful as I thought. Some months ago, I was much more positive. I could probably give it an actual C. There's so much that needs to be improved in this. There are definitely some tools that are better, but in my opinion, nothing compares to speaking to a real person. And to be honest, even the psychological aspect of it, I just don't like it. So yeah, I'm gonna put it into the letter C. Cards is an app I have been using in the past few months. I'm not very consistent with apps because sometimes I just lose track of what I've done on a given app. I don't know why. Everything is included in the app, but it's just a personal thing. I'm not very good with apps, basically, with language learning apps. You have vocabulary, you have grammar, you have songs. The explanation is in the given language. I have used it for Spanish. I really like it. I would give it an A because I will probably hardly ever give an S to an app. That's the thing. But of all the apps I've used, it's definitely one of the best ones I've tried. Graded readers. So these are graded readers only if they have the MP3 included into them. If you can listen to what's written, I think it's the most basic thing a book could provide. So I think graded readers are S. You choose the level, you read a story, you do exercises. I also really like the BlackCat graded readers. The catalog is quite huge, but it also depends on the language you're studying. Arte, there are different YouTube channels based on the language you're studying, and I've discovered them thanks to French when I was studying French. And they have different documentaries. The problem is that sometimes they are not translated also with the voiceover. The voiceover is not translated. So they are dubbed, maybe, but not always. Sometimes you get the German listening and then the subtitles are in the given language you want. So with Arte, it really depends what language you're studying. I don't like the fact that I go to the Polish Arte documentary YouTube channel and I hear German and then I read the Polish subtitles. That doesn't really make sense to me. So that's the only thing that I don't like about them, because otherwise the documentaries are so interesting. I've listened to so many of them, especially in French. It's just because of this inconsistency that I'm giving them a B, because otherwise they're so interesting and also very well made documentaries. The problem is the language. Muzzy in Gondoland is a cartoon which I discovered by chance, and I watched it in German, and I can tell you, if you're a beginner, obviously it's quite limited because there aren't plenty of episodes, but if you're a super beginner, if you're just getting started with German or with English, if you're getting started with English, you're not watching this video probably, but if you're getting started with German, I would say start off with Muzzy in Gondoland because it's cute, it's interesting, and you get input, which is, again, for cartoons, you get input that would be meant for children. But if you're a beginner, it's very good also for adults. And I really liked it. For beginners, I actually would put this into an A. This is a source to learn French. I used it much more in the beginning of the year, 2025. And I just stopped. It's good to check your level of fluency, if you can understand, for example, videos, articles. I haven't been using it for quite some time. It's not a favorite of mine. I would put it into B because it's still good. There are good materials. Maybe I should get more advanced in the language to appreciate it more. The podcasts I've been listening to the most are Huberman and Dreaming Spanish. Dreaming Spanish, I just give it a solid S. You have all different levels. They have a website. They have everything. I think it's like for Spanish, it's one of my favorite sources online. Huberman, you need to have an advanced or upper intermediate level of English. It's similar to the TED Talks. But if you're into those topics, so self-development, health, aging, etc., if you're into that, I would also give it an S because it's a brilliant source of input. I'd make a distinction between Huberman, advanced, Dreaming Spanish, all levels. But in general, podcasts, if you listen to podcasts, also InnerFrench is very good. So that's with French. If you find podcasts that are adequate for your level, S. Songs are quite tricky because I think you need to be good at understanding what you can understand of a song and what you need to let go for a moment. So with songs, it could be very tricky because there's slang, there are different aspects in the language that are not so accessible for beginners. In my opinion, songs are also a great source of repetition because if you listen to the song again, and again, it's basically getting that repetition you need for language learning, but you also enjoy it. So in my opinion, it would be an A, not an S, because sometimes some elements of the language are not accessible to all. Anki, I have to put it into D for me because I cannot use Anki. I cannot stick to using Anki. I just need context. I cannot use the app. I'm sorry. I know it's valuable. I know a lot of people love it. I can't appreciate it, and it's probably a limit of mine, but I cannot. Elsa, however, is an app which is designed for English and it's with AI. You could practice a lot with Elsa. You need to be consistent with it, obviously, just like with all these methods I'm mentioning in this video. I've tried using Elsa, imagining to be a student. I would put it into an A. It is also one of the pioneers when it comes to apps, language apps. I think that with apps, you need to be very motivated and disciplined because it's very easy to just forget about it, skip 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, a month. So easy. So that's the problem with apps, in my opinion. Don't come for me with the Duolingo app, okay? I know the owl. With Duolingo, I have to give it a D. D just like Duolingo. I used Duolingo in the past. It has never benefited me in any way. And if I am to sum all the hours I'd be using the app, I just feel like I could do in that same amount of time so much more with all the different methods I've included before in the ranking. So I'm not ranking it in a nice way. I'm sorry. I know that for some people it works because otherwise it wouldn't be as popular as it is. But for me, again, I suck with apps. My limit. Speaking to myself, I'll tell you, in my opinion, is ranking A. Ranking A because I keep speaking to myself every single day in English, in Spanish, in French, and it's helping me a lot with pronunciation, trying to figure what words I'm missing if I want to describe, for example, things I'm doing around the house. So sometimes I wash the dishes and I try to describe things in Spanish and I'm like, how do you say cup? How do you say, vaso? When you're speaking to yourself, you also have no pressure. You could repeat the same things over and over and over. You have time to think. There's nobody watching you, nobody pressuring you. I just think it's a very nice way to understand what you can say, what you cannot say, what's creating some friction in your speech. Language exams. Language exams are very different from everyday conversation, everyday life. If I'm traveling to a country and I want to communicate with people, I'm not focusing on the exam. I'm not focusing on exam materials because that's absolutely non-relevant. On the other hand, if I want to understand what level am I, more or less, probably a language exam, it's a good way to assess yourself a little bit. I'm also biased because I'm a language teacher, so I also am familiar with language exams. I know a little bit about all the behind the scenes, everything that's implemented in the scores, etc., etc. I'd have to divide this into: do you want a certificate? Do you want to move to a country so you need a solid level? Because in that case, language exams and mock exams, so practicing every now and then to assess your level, I would give it an actual A or even S. But if you want to learn a language because you want to move to a country and speak to people, and you don't need, for example, a B2 or a C1, but you just need to communicate with people, I'd give it a C. So the ranking changes a lot based on your actual needs. I think language exams and mock exams are good for, again, intermediate and advanced levels. As a beginner, probably you don't need it. This is another book I have, and this one is by Zanichelli, which is very popular in Italy. I would give this book a solid S. It's a Spanish book about culture. It has videos, reading, interesting vocabulary used in context. It's like a school book, a course book, but you're learning the language with it. I love it. I've been loving it. I give it an S. I just had to purchase it because it's just brilliant. If you love culture, food, geography, some historical background into different cultures, S. I love it. I love it. Journaling and writing prompts. I think writing is always so neglected. The problem with writing is that you need feedback. I think the most valuable way, the most accessible way to get feedback is to have a tutor. So there is this element of you need a person to help you, because not all native speakers can help you assess a writing. It depends if you're writing a YouTube comment, an Instagram comment, a short text, a short story, or an essay. So I'd give it an A. I'd give it an A because of the difficulty that you could encounter in having that checked, having that redacted for you. Because writing, in my opinion, is a golden skill in language learning. Finding a person who is going to help you with checking all your mistakes in writing, you're either hiring a tutor or you have a very good friend, but it's not very, very easy to access. That's the only reason why I'm giving it an A. And then we have Nicos Weg. Nicos Weg is a German show for German learning. I love Nicos Weg. I love it. And I had to interrupt watching it. I stopped learning German. But in my opinion, Nicos Weg deserves a solid A. Just because I have not watched the whole thing, I don't want to give it an S. But I'll update you when I'm starting again with German, how I feel about it. But it's a very good TV show. There is a story and you're basically learning the language as the story goes and continues. Language islands. I have an Excel on my computer where I have different languages and I have some standard sentences that I would use in my daily life. So I am a language teacher. I am 28. I love learning languages. I live in Rome. I don't like horror movies. So I have these language islands. And the concept is you have these sentences that you would normally use and you learn how to say these things in the language you're learning. You're not starting from the course book or the input, but you are trying to translate things that you need to know. When you're meeting a person, when you're introducing yourself, you just need those expressions. Those are things you would say if you're meeting somebody new. And I think this is a very nice method because they are easy sentences. They're not complex. You're not learning an entire description. You're not learning so much, but you're focusing your attention on some aspects that are so important for you. An S. Actually, you just set a limit for yourself. So for example, every week I have to know 20 new sentences, 50 new sentences, 30 new sentences. And then you just learn how to express yourself and it helps your speaking so freaking much. Changing the language of your phone. I'd give it a B because it's not bad, it's just quite limited because there's so much vocabulary you can learn at a certain point. The moment I learn how to say download, upload, share, add, pin, the months, the days, I think that there's a certain limit to what you can learn when you're changing the phone's language. But at the same time, I wouldn't say D or C because there's always maybe some kind of expression that pops up, maybe in an ad, maybe you have a new app and the instructions are in the language. Every time I'm starting a new language, at some point I change my phone into that language. So it's something I keep doing. In the scope of things, it's a bit limited. So that's the only reason why I'm giving it a B. But I would say it's something you'd find useful. If you do it, it's not a waste of time. Then we have the easy channels. So easy German, easy French, easy Spanish, easy Italian, easy Polish, blah, blah, blah. For the languages I have been learning this year, so French, Spanish, and German, S. AI prompts with exercises. This whole year, I've tried creating exercises with AI, so with chat, for example, ChatGPT. You need to be careful. I'd give it a high score because you can customize the exercise. So for example, create a gapped text kind of exercise, including these words. Brilliant, amazing. I'd give it an S plus just because of this, because it's probably one of the best things you could do in language learning. You have something which is extremely customizable and personal for your needs. The problem is that sometimes there are hallucinations, there are some mistakes, so it can be tricky. And I know that for different languages, it can be more difficult to generate something valuable and that you would trust. So having a source of exercises which is not trustworthy 100%, I'd give it a B. I question the validity of the exercise. I question if this would actually be a sentence that native speakers would use. So I always have to double check on the internet, and it's not easy peasy. It's not something you just type the prompt and there you go, you have the exercise. You need to be careful because you could learn something in the wrong way, which we obviously do not want. Magazines, in my opinion, are incredibly useful. I would say that for language learning, they're an incredible source of authentic materials. The only thing about articles and magazines is that if you purchase something like this, you need to be at a good level. This is S, in my opinion. If you're an intermediate level, this could be tricky for you. So you need to be careful. We have Wikipedia, because something I've done a lot this year was, let's say I've wanted to learn about Patagonia. I would type Patagonia and then read about it also on Wikipedia. And I found it to be good because on Wikipedia you can find so much information, and I would give it an A. Maybe A and B, I don't know, I have to think about it, but probably an A based on my experience, because the languages I'm learning are, again, very popular languages. They are languages that are spoken by millions of people. Spanish, French, they're super popular. If you're learning a language which is spoken by fewer people, in those cases you could struggle finding the article translated, and it basically doesn't exist. The more niche-like the language is, the more restrictions you have on this entire tier list. So, yeah, this was long, and I did not expect to make a video this long, but this is a summary of all the things I have done in 2025. And all the tiers S and A are things that I'll keep doing this year. And let me tell you, a lot of these are in tier S and tier A because I also know myself quite well. So I know what doesn't work for me. So I'm already starting off strong with the tools I know that are good for me. Let me know down in the comments if you knew about these. Let me know what has helped you this year, so in 2025, and what you've done to learn a new language. I'll read all the comments eagerly. Bye!